Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisco Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Civilization, Eras, and Allies, we're going to rank all of the heroes available to you in Season 1. And I've got some good news for you. Some of the heroes are way better than others. Some of them will be better into future seasons than others, which means I'm going to help you lock in your investments and focus on the ones that are very best. Now, by the way, if you haven't actually downloaded Civilization, Eras, and Allies, you can use my sponsored link in the description. Thank you again to the makers of the game for sponsoring this video. Let's talk about how they're going to organize this list. Obviously, you can see I've got it from S+ all the way down to D. In terms of the tiers, we're going to start with the bottom. And normally in a tier list, I group left to right in terms of how strong they are. In this case, I'm just going to kind of cluster together the int-based heroes, the attack-based heroes, some vanguards, and some combo heroes. Because there's just going to be a lot of heroes on the screen in this video. So let's first put all the D tier heroes on the board, and let's talk about them. All right, our D tier is loaded in. Toyotomi is a healer with an active skill, easy to counter by silencing him though. And at that point, you're shut down. And if you can't heal, you can't use your skills. That's why I've rated him all the way down at D. Eleanor is probably just the worst healer in the game, which is why she's also there. And Montezuma is probably the second worst healer in the game. These are your int-based heroes. From there, we've got a few vanguards. Kutuzov is an okay choice if you play him with the militarist bond. Otherwise, I think he's pretty weak. Thutmose III is useful in an Imperial Age bond, but otherwise does not work very well as a standalone. And then Ramses. He's an int captain for the Imperial Age bond, but has a preparation on his main skill, which probably makes him the worst int hero. If you get controlled, it's G freaking G's. And then lastly, Leonidas. You get him when you start playing, so it's not too surprising that like the thing you get access to at the very start of the game is not all that strong. This is, I think, a clue to his power level. And I know the lore is really cool for Leonidas, but you're going to swap him out and grab his retire skill card called Retaliate, and you will thank me for that later. So you'll probably use him a little bit initially, but after that point, get his retire skill. All right, let's hit the C tier, starting with the int heroes. Hannibal Barca is an okay support hero. Not strong enough, I think, to go higher. Dae Jung Gyum. I should have looked up how to pronounce some of this stuff before I made this video. They've got a nice heal, but I would say that it's too inconsistent. I don't know how to pronounce this one either. Kokasen is a not so great combo hero, but it can work. This video is actually just Chiscool doesn't know how to pronounce stuff. Takeda Shingen. I think his main skill is not all that great. Maybe nice to have, but there are tons of better things that you can be doing. And his retire skill, I think, is much more valuable. So you're probably going to retire him. This is not a retirement tier list, although maybe I should make that. Zishi can reduce the enemy's range, but her skill is just too inconsistent. All right. And maybe I should go through and highlight who I'm talking about as I talk about them here. Okay. Up next is King David, who is a pretty solid vanguard if there's healing involved. You've got Charles Martel, who I would say is a pretty inconsistent vanguard, but sometimes can surprise you if he's in the right army. Then you've got Minamoto, who is a very basic vanguard, unless you play the Bushido bond, in which case he actually would perform much better than how I've ranked him here. But in general, I'd say that's kind of where he's at. So the remaining two heroes in this C tier, by the way, love their lore, love their history, Harold and Mulan. Harold, they're both attack damage heroes, by the way. He was my first attack damage hero. He was useful up until level 7 tiles, and he can be decent in some armies, but he's not amazing, all right? And then Mulan, you can play her as an attack captain for the HH bond, which is very, very powerful in Season 1 for tile capture, but not so good for PvP, okay? So for tile capture, yes, very, very good. HH Bond loved it. But for PvP, not so much, which is why overall, I'm going to give her a C. All right, now we've got the B tier in play. Queen Dido, she is the center in the HH bond, can debuff active skills, and does some decent healing. She deserves her spot in the B. And the HH combo, as I mentioned, very good for PvE. As a Pounce hero, we've got Casimir. All right, he is your third best choice, in my opinion, to get Pounce for a combo army, and he does it decently well with the right composition. For Vanguards, you've got Spartacus, who's also a part of the HH bond. Again, very good choice for PvE, not so good for PvP. Use them only when you don't have better options available. Then you've got Guy Beck. I'm probably butchering that. He can protect his allies from basic attacks, but his retire skill is actually where it's at. Preemptive action is a meta skill in any army. So, sorry, bro, you are going to get retired. It is what it is. Nzinga, you use her African Empire bond if you want to stall engage armies, and engage is very, very powerful in making sure your army can do what you want to do. When we get to combo armies, you've got Nathaniel, who's a great choice for the Resplendent Freedom bond, and then Otto von Bismarck, great in the Teutonic Tradition bond as a combo captain. Coupe, who's another decent attack combo captain, has the title Composed, which gives a chance to be immune to disarm, which is very powerful. And then Queen Victoria, who's another source of double attack in a combo army, which is critical to making any combo work. You're subscribed to my channel, so you know that pounces and double attacks are really kind of where it's at. Then when you get to attack-based heroes, you've got Mansa Musa, who is a solid control hero. He's a part of the African Empire bond as the captain. He's got a unique debuff called Exhaust, which stops an enemy from acting, but it's really inconsistent, which is why I didn't rank him higher than a B. Then you've got El Cid, who does insane attack damage, but needs the right composition with Wallace and Joan of Arc to pull it off. So he's very strong, but not very versatile. And then you've got Akechi, who is a really good enemy captain sniper, but you have better options, which is why I've dropped him in B. And there's also Shaka Zulu, who I forgot to place. Let me grab him real quick. Okay, B tier actually completed now. Shaka Zulu is good in the African Empire bond as the center, but his healing is only moderate and damage is only decent. His main skill is an active skill, which also leaves him extremely vulnerable to being controlled, which is why I did not rank him higher. Now, at this point, we're getting up to the A+ tier heroes, so we're going to talk more about why each hero is where they are. We'll talk more about how I've used some of these heroes in the past. So let's load up all of our A tier heroes. There actually are a lot of them, but we'll talk all about it. Here we go, A tier heroes loaded in. Let's start with Int Engage heroes. We've got Sundok, who is the next best engage healer option to a Sun Tzu. She can also inspire your highest attack ally to do damage. A tier is a solid grade, right there with Lepidus, who, as you know from my other videos, is a part of a bunch of different powerful armies. He's an unstoppable engage int damage dealer. The Grand Conqueror bond is one of his strongest comps, or you can place him with a survival army to deal big damage. Then for combo heroes, we've got Richard. He is a great attack combo captain. He increases his combo damage dealt for 2 turns, and his title increases the trigger rate of combo skills, and the double title increases critical damage. Freddy is a great attack combo hero with powerful scaling for attack crit damage, and also George Washington, probably my third choice after Tommy and Gilga, who, yes, you will see them ranked higher in this list, when serving as a captain. He does good damage with the Resplendent Freedom bond, which brings us to some int damage heroes. You've got Boudica, who's another unstoppable attack damage dealer, and with her double title, she can also be an int damage dealer. She's versatile and punchy, which is why I've got her at the A tier, but not good enough to go higher. Then Charlemagne has some crazy int damage that burns enemies, applying a damage over time. He's underrated, in my opinion, in the S1 meta, but not strong enough to be higher than an A until maybe I've had a chance to use him in some other seasons and see what I can do with him. That's where I'm going to leave him. For Vanguards, you've got Meng Tian, who is the best choice for a damage and control army. He can apply debuffs as well. You've got Arthur Wellesley, who's pretty darn easy to obtain, I would argue, and he can debuff your enemy's lineup, which makes him a great choice as a sub-in for a Vanguard in a combo army. He, again, is easy to obtain, but also I think you can do better. Then you've got Oda, who reduces the enemy's stats and its stat. If you want to fight to last longer, you use him as the Vanguard, and he's best played with int damage heroes. And you've got Sejong the Great, who is a decent option as a damage scaling army choice. You're going to use him if you don't have Mark Anthony or YSS. And then lastly, we've got attack, damage, and control heroes that fit into that sort of archetype of army we've talked about in my prior videos. BQ, captain for the Qin Empire Bond. He does extra damage when your enemies are controlled. Very powerful main skill, and works really well with a synergy where you're going in and you're applying lots of control effects to your enemy. Miyamoto deals good attack damage if enemies are controlled, and extends their debuffs for one more turn, which is pretty wicked. If they aren't controlled, he applies a debuff, which is a very nice kit for this hero, which can be played in a damage army. And then lastly, Alexander, the OG man. He does crazy attack damage with his active skill, which is another nice option as a damage dealer. All right, the S tier, baby. Now the explanations get more lengthy. Otherwise, we'd have been here all god dang day. Let's start with Sun Tzu. You're going to be able to get him free to play, which is amazing. And not only do you unlock him for just completely free to play in Season 1, but he's probably the best engage int hero after QSH, who is incredibly difficult to get. He fits into pretty much any composition. He can be damage, he can be healing, he can reduce your army's combat damage taken. He is a must-use, in my opinion, once you have him, for both PvE and PvP. All right, then we've got Cleo. Cleo is an amazing engage hero, comes right after Sun Tzu, works great to reduce your target's engage damage dealt and increase their engage damage taken. Her int is pretty reasonable too. She, like QSH and Sun Tzu, is one of the best center slot heroes. Outstanding. Then Joan. Ultra difficult to get. She's a peerless hero. She is an engage int hero, and she's special because she basically gives you another chance to trigger your active skills, which is insane. This dramatically enhances any army that's going to be active skill focused, which we talked about in my prior videos on this channel. Although this is a Season 1 list, she's a part of the best army in Season 2 for what it's worth. And she has a high Agi rating, making her likely to act first. And she can increase combat damage dealt and reduce target combat damage. A great example of her in an army would be the Wallace El Cid Joan combination. And she's a big part of what makes that combination really pop off. And then lastly, for the engage int heroes is going to be Caesar. All right, yet another peerless hero. He's an insane engage int healer. He shines in the Grand Conqueror bond, which people often just call the Roman bond, or in a damage scaling army where you're trying to get many, many hits on your enemy as the center. Now we get to the vanguards. I mean, these heroes are all so good. So you've got Mark Anthony, who is probably the best vanguard in the game, being able to deal damage back to enemies after getting hit. He also has a chance to take damage on behalf of your allies, which is amazing. He is best played in a damage scaling army with Pericles as the captain. I covered that army in depth in my damage and control video, where we talked about why that's so powerful. We've got YSS, who is similar to Mark Anthony, but he's an attack damage hero that can be played in the Vanguard slot for, yet again, a damage scaling army. With his main skill, you can rack up a crazy amount of attack damage. And then the Pounce heroes. This is what enables combo armies to sing. You've got Teresa, a top choice to get Pounce in your combo army. She works in any combo army, both int and attack, making her both powerful and versatile. Then you've got Saladin, yet another peerless hero, extremely difficult to obtain, but he's got the biggest crit rate scaling in the game for the main skill for an attack combo army. I've talked about how it is that you can make a combo army work. One of the synergies is to do more basic attacks. Another is to really ramp up your crit rate, crit damage, which is what he's doing. He's also able to provide pounce to your combo army, and he has the highest agi in the game, so he's almost certainly going to act first. Then you've got Tommy right next to Gilga. Not too much of a coincidence there. They're both int combo heroes. Tommy is an insane int combo hero. With her disorient debuff, she makes it so that your enemies attack themselves, and she needs her title to really shine. So once you have that, you arguably have your best in slot int combo captain. Right over here, baby. Tommy. Without her titles, use her in the center. We covered this in depth in another video, so I won't go more in depth on that here, although I'll have a bunch of cards in the end screen. Then you've got Gilgamesh. Second, right after Tommy, Gilga is sitting pretty as the int combo captain. His main skill is insane, and he can have a chance to have disarm immunity if you have his compose title, which you really are going to want to get. He also can serve as the center, but even without any titles, he can serve well as the captain. And when you get him, basically start using him. Yes, he is that good. Lastly, in the S tier, we have William Wallace. He deals massive attack damage to all enemies and inflicts a heal block on them. Heal block shuts down any army that counts on sustain, such as a Sun Tzu or a Caesar. And I just mentioned how much you're going to see Sun Tzu because you get him for free. Combine him with a hero like Joan, and you are absolutely freaking cooking with gas. Which brings us to the S plus heroes. First one up is going to be QSH. I'll scroll on down here and grab him real quick. Commander blindness is a real condition affecting real people. Sometimes it takes me a minute to find the commander. QSH is an engage int hero and arguably one of the best heroes in the game. He's able to disrupt enemies at the start of the fight, deal massive int damage, and he can work in any army composition, which is just kind of disgusting. Although this isn't a Season 2 tier list, he'll be a part of the #1 army in the game in Season 2, and likely future meta armies. Yes, he is that good. A great example of a QSH army would be the Kin Emperor Bond, or you could use the Tommy QSH Teresa combination, or you could use Gilga, QSH, and Saladin. QSH is absolutely OP, freaking legend. And then lastly, I've got one more for you in the S plus tier. It's going to be Pericles, all right? Pericles is powerful for a number of reasons. He's an engage attack hero, one of the best captains for building a damage scaling army like we talked about in my prior video on exactly how to do this. And he applies revolt on your enemies, making it so you get a bunch of healing when those enemies take damage. He's a part of the #1 army in Season 1, Pericles, Cleo, and Mark Antony, which gets downgraded to #2 in Season 2. But hey, this is a Season 1 tier list, and he's still OP there. So your best heroes in the game all the way up top, QSH and Pericles, followed by a number of heroes in the S tier, where we've covered exactly how you go and build those armies. So consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm sure after watching this, you're really wanting more information about the skills and the combinations. That's why I made dedicated videos about all the damage archetypes and all the ways you can get value with them. So check the cards in the end screen. I hope you subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. And I thank you again to the makers of Civilization, Eras, and Allies for sponsoring this video. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.